And hello and welcome everyone. It's the end of the month, which means me and Matt are doing something a little bit different. It's not the comic multiverse, it's Retro Hero Video, everyone. A video podcast that's really more of a book club for superhero animation. We're back again, Matt, continuing what I guess we could call the very special episode arc. In the last episode, we looked at parental kidnapping in Batman the Animated Series, and this week, we're looking at drugs.
We're looking at drugs and neglectful parents as well.
Yeah,
so there's a bit of a tie between the first two that here.
It is. I'm, of course, talking about Batman the Animated Series, Season 1, Episode 12, It's Never Too Late. And
it's funny, you say it's episode 12. On where I was watching it on my streaming service, it was episode 6.
Okay, see, so now there's a big problem we get into with Batman the Animated Series, because there's production and then there's air. And I notice this too every time I look at them. Everyone has it differently. People either have the airing order or production order. I go by production order because that's where the DVDs have it. I don't know where the streaming services have it. Maybe that's where it has it.
Yeah, because this was episode 6, and I think it was the same with like the first one where it was like episode 56 or something.
Yeah, they have weird rules for where some of these stand depending on when they were released. Because I think like what is it? The Catwoman 2-parter is actually the first episode they aired on television because it coincided with Batman Returns at the time.
Yep.
So weird history. I'm going for production order because I wrote this whole thing around production order. But yes, this episode actually aired September 10th, 1992, which, goddamn, was it really that freaking long ago?
Wow, yeah, Jesus.
Of course, as we talked about in the previous episode, and something that I hope becomes a long-running gimmick and segment on this show, what was the world like, Matt, back in September 1992? What influenced this episode when it aired? And, well, I don't have to ask because I actually have some answers for you.
Oh, do you?
I do. Can you guess what the biggest song in the world was in September 1992?
Oh, Jesus, I don't know. Something from Madonna or something?
Good guess. My mind would actually have jumped to, like, Nirvana, but I don't think they were, like, quite taken over yet. It was actually End of the Road by Boys to Men.
Oh, okay.
Oh, they don't make them like that anymore. It's the end of the road. So soulful. Whatever happened to those Boys to Men? I guess they're just men to men now.
Yeah, they became men.
Senior citizens to men to boys. Now, can you guess what was the number one movie at that time?
92, I'm guessing that'll be around the time Batman Returns came out.
Yes, it is, but it's not this time, actually, which blew me away. That's an excellent guess, but it's not.
Okay, what was it?
In September, the number one movie in the world was Last of the Mohicans.
Oh, okay, Michael Mann, yeah.
Yeah, very cool movie. Not really historically accurate, but boy, is it a fun adventure movie.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
We're obviously, you and me are loving Book of Boba Fett right now. It takes a lot of inspiration from this, actually.
Yes, it does.
Boba Fett's got a lot of Dances with Wolves and a lot of Last of the Mohicans in it, so, can't say you don't learn anything about this. But obviously, if you're watching this show, what people really want to know, what was happening at comics at the time?
Comic books.
Yeah, what were the stories? And believe it or not, 92 was a hip happening time in comic books.
Boy, was it ever.
In the world of Batman, the hot news story was actually Shadow of the Bat. The last... By Alan Grant, specifically The Last Arkham, which was the debut of Victor Zsasz.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yes, this was the one, he wasn't as he is now, where he's like the creepy dude who puts notches in his skin. He was really more of like a Hannibal Lecter, Jack the Ripper guy when it started.
Yeah, he was a bit more of like your run-of-the-mill serial killer.
Yeah, he was a little bit more cerebral. Last Arkham in itself is kind of cerebral. But yes, this shit was brand new at the time the episode we talked about aired, so think about that. Obviously, of course, you're a big Superman fan, so we gotta talk about Superman. This was the Roger Stern era. This was Superman versus Rampage from the pages of Action Comics, number 136.
Yeah, very 90s era of Superman, because he's just getting like the just about to start to get like the mullet coming in. And
I looked at that. Death of Superman is in December, so he's a couple months from dying.
Yeah, yeah. I want to say this was around the time they started the Doomsday. How they had it in the back pages of
Right.
of some of the comics leading up. They had like the teaser.
You're
The
probably
Doomsday
right.
is coming teaser. This was probably maybe around that time, or probably just before it.
Probably pretty close to it. Like, yeah, I can look at the cover of this and I can tell they're really out of ideas. Superman fights Rampage. Why not? You can see why in just a couple months they're going to be like, fuck it, let's kill him.
This is part of what is known as the Triangle Era, because of the little triangle on the side there.
Yes.
With the date and the number.
I'm looking right at it. Yes, I can tell. Holy shit. Back when DC had the Bullet logo, too.
Yes, yes.
Love that logo. Wish they would bring that one back, actually.
Yeah.
Now, what was happening at Marvel? A lot, actually. In Spider-Man, they were just beginning the Red Skull chameleon life model decoy parents coming back story.
Everything was fucking happening in Spider-Man at that time.
Everything was happening at Spider-Man at this time. I cannot believe that this was actually on comic shelves at the same time as this episode. I never liked the parents. I never like when they bring them back.
They don't know what to do with them.
No, they never do. It's like, they're spies, they're dead, they're alive, they're life model decoys. I do like the Harry Osborn story we get later on, but that won't happen till later.
No, yeah.
And finally, we have Avengers. Well, not finally. Penultimately, we have Avengers. Oh, what a bad era this was. Black Knight was one of the most prominent members on the team.
Yeah, I'm looking at the team now, looking at the cover now. We got them, we got White Vision.
Yep, and Cersei.
Yeah. And Cersei, you wouldn't recognize that to be Cersei. And then I believe
Hercules,
and I'm not sure who the other person is.
Yeah, I don't know who they are either. But yeah, this was a bad. The 90s were a bad time for the Avengers.
When was when did that big relaunch thing they did with the Avengers happen? The Heroes
Reborn,
the original Heroes Reborn, or whatever it was called.
When they give them to the Image guys, I think that would still be a couple more years to come. But this is the beginning of their downfall, because this was the 90s and no one was fucking reading Avengers. They were also rants. Everyone was reading X-Men.
Yeah, X-Men, Spider-Man, Deadpool,
yep.
Venom.
They were the hot things right now. The Avengers were not hot. It's hilarious to think now they control like every bit of pop culture, but not in the 90s.
Yeah, and it was not that far away either.
No, but it is kind of amazing to think Cersei and Black Knight are big and in movies now, and White Vision was on TV, so much that was new here has come to pass.
Yeah, just looking at that costume of that woman in the yellow, I think that's meant to be Hellcat.
Oh, holy shit.
Patsy Walker.
Oh shit, when she's not a cat, I can't tell.
Yeah, she doesn't have the mask.
No. Now, hilariously, the last comic I got here is a little bit of an out there one. I got this because I was looking into, everything that was on the shelf in September 99. And I got to indie comics and I saw a little book called Blood is the Harvest. Now, do you know why Blood is the Harvest is important, Matt?
I don't.
So, if you're a big fan of podcasts, which if you're listening to this, I assume you are, you've probably heard of a little show called My Brother, and Me.
Oh, shit. I know where this is going.
Yes, but, Griffin, Travis, and Justin McElroy, the McElroy brothers, famous dudes, they have a D&D show. Their father's a guy named Clint McElroy. Clint McElroy did a lot of ghostwriting for comics back in the day, but one of his big original series was Blood is the Harvest. This was brand new at this era. Obviously, Clint is famous for a lot of things, never really became a famous comic writer.
Have they ever talked about this on their show?
They have, actually. There's a great bit. Okay. It's a live show where a comic book writer from the area is like, hey, I wrote a book, and your dad actually gave me a bad review. What's your advice, brothers? Because their show is they give people advice. And they're like, yeah, we don't actually know how to take criticism from our father. Tell you what, how about you make fun of one of his books? Blood is the Harvest. That one's gotta suck, right? So yeah, that's a real bit from the show, and I just love to death that that's a real thing.
Yeah, it looks very 90s. It looks so 90s.
Oh yeah, this is of the time it was made, no doubt about it. But what a wonderful little artifact and a bit of podcasting history.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that connection.
Yeah, so with that out of the way, everyone, now that we have fully set the scene of what the time period is like, we can finally hop into the episode proper. Alright, so Act 1, title card. Love the title cards. Big fan of the title cards.
Big old Art Deco train barreling towards us.
Oh yeah, I hope you like trains, everyone, and judging by internet analytics, people do love trains, because this episode is lousy with trains.
Yes, it has a lot of trains in it. A lot of the same train, but a lot of trains.
Big old train motif. So yeah, as we join the episode, Black and White newscast tells us that there's a mob war in Gotham City, and I mean, it must be a Tuesday, because when isn't there a mob war in Gotham?
I do find it funny that this is on the news in Gotham when this is probably happening like constantly. It's like it's always happening. People don't need to know about it. It's because it's always happening around them.
Well, you see, we got to get the weeknight gang wars done so we can move on to the weekend gang wars. The holiday gang wars.
The full-time ones work during the week, and the part-time ones come on in the end, the weekend.
It's a great system in Gotham City. They got so many gangs. They can take vacations, birthdays, Christmases, and just keep fighting it out. I love the touch, too, that all the televisions in Gotham City are always black and white. That was something from, like, the production Bible, that this universe is 1950s and always will be, except for when it isn't later on.
Yeah, they're black and white. They're big boxy, big boxy ones with the big light in the back of them and everything.
Now, in some episodes, they will actually screw up, and TVs won't be black and white even when they're supposed to be. On commentary, that still bugs the crap out of Deanie and Tim and everyone. Like, damn it, we were so close.
Yeah.
Now, who are the mobsters who are fighting each other, you're asking? Well, it's newcomer Thorn, of course, one of the most recurring bad guys for all of Batman the Animated Series. One of the only non-superpowered recurring bad guys without a costume and a gimmick. And his opponent, Arnold Stromwell, who is apparently the old guard of Gotham crime. And they're locking horns, as mafiosos love to do.
Yeah. Rupert Thorne, as people know, has ties actually to Matches Malone and was his boss. And we all know who Matches Malone turns out to be.
In fact, we kind of get some fun, Batman Master of Disguise stuff later. Now, because we're on this scene, Matt, I wanted to ask a very important question that has always kind of messed with my own headcanon. Obviously, when we think mafiosos, when we think, gang wars, we think like Italian mobsters. What ethnicity is Rupert Thorne?
I can't actually remember.
They never tell us.
No.
They never once tell us. In this episode, he will be at an Italian restaurant called Pete's, and all I could ever think, and maybe I'm crazy, please tell me in the comments if you think this is crazy, I always thought Rupert Thorne was supposed to be Irish, because Thorne obviously isn't Italian.
Yeah.
Maybe it's one of those things like they changed his name at Ellis Island, like it was O'Thorne or something, and he has like a green suit vest. No one has ever said this one way or another.
No, yeah, I guess it's left ambiguous. I guess it's just up to like whoever's using him at the time.
True. Stromwell, again, equally not Italian, but obviously New York and all these other cities. It wasn't always Italian organized crime. It was Jewish organized crime and everything else before that. So I don't know if they were making like an actual attempt in the show to be like, oh, we're not just going to have stereotypical Italian mobsters, or if it was just, it didn't matter what the mobster was called.
Yeah.
Now, Stromwell is especially ticked off because not only is Rupert Thorne giving him all this trouble via this gang war, but apparently his son, Joey Jojo Shabadoo Jr., is missing and has been missing for a while, and even the police, even Gordon doesn't know what's up.
Yeah, and the guy thinks that Thorne and his people are behind and like taking him as like an act of revenge or like in this gang war. He's like a prisoner of war sort of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. It's one of those classic sins of the father fall on the son sort of thing. And already they're showing that Stromwell maybe isn't your typical gangster. Sure, he breaks his remote. Sure, he roughs up his own henchmen in classic bad guy fashion. But he also looks wistfully at a family portrait there. Maybe this guy isn't all bad.
What I found really funny about that family portrait was that it kind of looks like Thomas Martha and
kind of
Bruce
does. It
a little
kind
bit.
of does, yeah. Yeah, I never thought of that. You're absolutely right. It's like they can only draw one portrait in Gotham.
They would just really use it. No one will notice. No one will notice.
They went to the same guy to get the portrait done. He does the rich people's portraits in Gotham.
Yeah, and he just copies and pastes them and like fleeces them out of their money because they don't look at it.
The original copy-paste man. Now, the guy voicing Strommel in this episode is an actor by the name of Eugene Roche, I believe is how you pronounce it. Very, very veteran TV actor. He did, like, Dennis the Menace and Star Trek and Night Court and everything.
Okay.
I'm assuming he's not with us anymore because he was already an old actor at the time of doing this. Batman the Animated Series was famous for this, getting, really, maybe not well-known, but, really strong character actors, even, people from radio to do voices in Batman the Animated Series, which was unheard of at the time to try and get, actors. Usually you got, voice actors, and you would only have to hire a handful because they'd all pull double, triple duty.
Yeah, they'd all voice background guy and guard one and all that sort of stuff.
I mean, hell, Kevin Conroy himself does that, actually pulls double and triple duty in this show.
Yeah, Kevin Conroy in this doesn't sound like Kevin Conroy either.
No, this episode, again, season 1, episode 12 or 6, depending on the order. There's a lot of early installment weirdness in this one.
Yeah, he hasn't quite found the Batman voice yet.
No, they are.
So it's kind of light. It's kind of light and
it is.
Just like Kevin Conroy's voice.
They're very much still figuring it out. So we meet up with Thorne and his people at Pete's Italian restaurant, which again, when I think of Italian restaurants named Pete, all I can think of is Goodfellas and the wedding scene where she's being introduced to all of Paulie's children, and they were all named Peter or Paul, and they all were married to women named Maria. So yeah, we see Thorne holding court with his people there, while a wino ends up getting thrown out. A very familiar-looking wino, no less.
Yeah, he put something in under the table.
Oh, what's up with that? Of course, it's Batman in disguise. Man, Batman doesn't do the Master of Disguise stuff as much in the comics anymore, does he?
That's why when I started watching this episode, I'm like, oh, Rupert Thorne's in this. This means this is those ties to Matches Malone and all that sort of stuff. Is Batman going to appear as Matches Malone? And is this it's like a proto Matches
version,
Malone?
Yeah.
But yeah, he doesn't really do that anymore. He's done it a couple of times recently in the comics, but I really wish he would do it a little bit more.
Yeah, Bruce doesn't go undercover near as much. It's he's a, expert martial artist, chemist, superhero. He's also a master of disguise, and I feel he doesn't do the Master of Disguise stuff as much.
Yeah, I do like how shitty his hair and beard is in this.
Very. I think
it's just a very clipped on looking thing.
I think the last time he went undercover was when he went undercover with the Unsanity Collective, but they saw through the disguise instantly, so it wasn't really going undercover.
Yeah, there was that, and he was briefly Killer Croc at the start of Joshua Williamson's run for one panel. That's
right. So Rupert Thorne's chatting up with his people. They've called Stromwell for a sit-down to discuss a piece, but that doity Rupert Thorne, he's going to try and, use this as an opportunity to kill his opponent, and oh boy, do I get a big old whack of Godfather in this scene, right? We got to kill the guy at the restaurant.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of Godfather in this episode, which, oh boy, when I was a little kid watching this episode, I did not get any of that.
No, not at all.
In fact, I will fully admit, and I'm sure a lot of people agree with me because this episode ends up on a lot of worst Batman the Animated Series episodes ever. This is a pure straight up gangster piece that they served on Saturday morning.
They just put Batman in that sometimes.
Yeah, in a mob story. So yeah, there's the Godfather references, but also apparently, as I discovered in my research, this episode takes even more reference from a Warner Brothers James Cagney gangster movie from the 30s called The Angels with the Dirty Faces.
Okay, yeah, and I can see that. I was gonna say because there's some scenes later on where it's later on when Batman, I think, is going to the Sunrise Foundation thing.
Yep.
It somehow adapts this very sort of hazed sort of look to it,
Sepia
and that's
tone,
very that's very indicative of films of that era.
Absolutely. Also, the story of Angels with the Dirty Faces, about two gangster brothers running around a train yard. So how about that?
And that's basically what half of this is.
It's basically what half this episode is. Now, if you're thinking, hey, Angels with the Dirty Faces, that sounds familiar, you may actually know the parody version of that movie, Angels with the Dirty Souls, which is the movie that Kevin McAllister, Macaulay Culkin is watching in Home Alone.
Yeah, the one they spoofed and made specifically for that film.
Made specifically for that film, so it all connects. I bet you didn't think I'd connect Batman, The Godfather, and Macaulay Culkin in one episode, but we did it. So yeah, it's time for the meet. Everyone puts on their fedoras and their trench coats, and they get ready to head on down there. But Stromwell has himself a bit of a PTSD flashback when they go to the train yard and when he sees, like the crossing lights and everything.
Yeah, he's there with one of his friends.
Yeah.
And I think they just stole something. Or he just stole something from someone, and his friends kind of riding him about it, and they planned on the train tracks, and the trains come, and his friend's foot gets caught in the track when it changes.
Yep, it certainly does. And not just any train, a fucking horrifying demon train.
Horrifying 1930s Art Deco train.
Is this not the scariest train ever? Like, again, it's hard to believe that this show was animated 20 years ago, but the care and effort they put into the train in this blows my goddamn mind. With the smoke billowing and it coming down the way it does, I am shocked at how amazing it looked.
Yeah, this huge bright light out the front of it, the giant guard on the front that's meant to move, like, trees and shit out of the way of it and everything.
And obviously the idea is that the train doesn't really look like this. It's being remembered through the eyes of a child, but I just thought that was such a striking visual thing. Like this train is represented of Stromwell's whole trauma. And his foot gets caught in the thing. The other kid, looks like he might be trying to help him, like, get off the track, get off the track. He does, only for another train that's less evil to come the other way. And apparently that is what kills a lot of people on railroad tracks. It's not the train you get out of the way of, it's the other train that's coming that gets you.
When you stumble onto the next track,
Yeah, and that story is left ambiguous and unfinished as we look up to a church there and we see Batman keeping a grim vigil. And I love we see the gargoyles casting shadows, and then we see Batman himself casting a shadow where if you were looking by, you wouldn't even know he was there.
No, not at all.
Yeah. It's funny, too, Batman showing up fairly late into the episode, actually.
Yeah, well, it's like a lot of these early episodes were literally like, it's a gangster movie, but with Batman in it. But it's a kind of a sci-fi, like the Invisible Man thing. It's like an Invisible Man heist sort of thing. With Batman in it.
And Batman is there too, which I think really speaks to the power of Batman as a character. You can use a lot or a little of him, actually, and it goes a long way. Now, Batman wasn't just at the church for a cool image. He's actually coming to talk to the priest there, a guy named Father Michael, who apparently knows Arnold Stromwell quite well, and Batman says he's going to need your help tonight.
Yeah, is there like some type of law in like the Catholic Church where like the priest must be named Michael?
Yeah, always, right? After a saint.
Yeah, they never fails that like a TV show or a movie that if they have like a father character, he's always Father Michael.
Yep, always. I like, too, this guy's big line to Batman is like, yes, Arnold Stromwell, someone I wish I could give up on, but I can't. So, there's some real history there between these two. Keep that in mind as we go forward. Stromwell and his people make it to Pete's to have their big sit-down with Rupert Thorne, and he's just such a fucking shit-eater, isn't he, Rupert Thorne there? Oh, yes, come down. Oh, yes, everything's gonna be fine. I wouldn't kill you. No one could possibly kill you, not here. They cut a fun thing to a fun silhouette because obviously Rupert Thorne's portly and Stromwell's actually taller than him and kind of lankier. I kind of thought that was interesting. Thorne wears green and he has a very, very distinct pink shirt. The other guy.
Yeah, they're all dressed like kind of like proto Dick Tracy characters.
Very, very much so. Yes. Wow, you fucking nailed it. Yeah. Stromwell actually gets quite rough with Rupert Thorne there. He goes full Liam Neeson. Where's my son? Give me my son. And for once, Rupert Thorne's like, oh, I actually didn't do that. Of all the evil things I've done, that wasn't one of them.
Yeah, damn, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, shit. I would have loved to kidnap your son. Now, hey, sit down and we'll have a piece of pasta, antipasta, sit down with the food. And then, oh, no, wait, shut off the lights. And I love the like feeling of resignation that he has, like, damn, should have known this was coming.
Yeah.
He also doesn't just shoot him, too. He blows up the entire restaurant to try and kill him.
Yeah, the entire restaurant just, like, combusts.
All right, you know what? This isn't like Godfather, actually. You assume, like, oh, did Rupert Thorne, hide a 38 special in the bathroom? No, whole thing made of dynamite.
He specifically constructed this building made out of nitroglycerin.
The saddest fact, too, Pete, the owner, was there, and, he was probably super bummed about it. Goddamn Artie Bucco, Tony Soprano over here. Why you always gotta fuck up my restaurant?
Just paid it off,
Yep, just paid off the last thing in pennies. You want to talk to about how the animation in this really pulls no punches. We get the big explosion. We see the guys on the outside, all their coats get blown, and one guy's hat actually goes up in the air. And it's a blink and you'll miss it. And it's like, wow, they really cut no corners even in an episode like this.
Yeah, the attention to detail in these shows is fantastic.
Stunning, really stunning. So yeah, Rupert Thorne's like, ha ha ha, I done did the evil thing. Yep, he's dead now. I'm number one bad guy. But wait, Batman was there, and Batman was actually able to save him at the last second.
Yeah, he saved him. I like, as well, back when that explosion happens, there's like a part where it like pans over to like the bad guys, and like you just see Batman leave the frame above them as he enters the building. I thought that was a nice little detail as well.
It is nice, and you're probably thinking to yourself, like, well, why would Batman go to such lengths to save a guy like this in the middle of a gang war? Shouldn't he be beating them up? Well, that's kind of the whole, point of the episode, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Batman has plans for this guy that go beyond just getting an ass kicking. We also get a fun bit too. This is kind of like the wino bit in the previous episode where there's like some burnout who's like there at the restaurant when it explodes, and he's talking to Gordon and Bullock. I seen it. I done seen the Batman. He was there. He pulled the guy from the fire like the pits of Hades. Can I have some money to go get loaded? That's totally the guy.
Even go to the methadone clinic.
Very. Even Bullock has a great bit too when he's looking at Gordon. He's like, your hair looked better on TV.
Yeah.
He does have a crazy S-curl in this show, doesn't he?
It looks like a soft serve ice cream.
It really does. I think they tune that down when we get to like the new adventures of Batman, but it's really pronounced in this episode.
Yeah.
It's really, really pronounced where even other characters are making note of it. So yeah, one of Rupert Thorne's guys is able to get back to him and say, hey, word on the street is the Batman saved him. I guess the gang war is still on. Damn it, I wanted to watch my shows tonight, but I guess I can't. Gotta go back to work. Rupert Thorne's not married, though, and doesn't have his own kid, so I guess he gets less shit about it.
Yeah.
Even his assistant isn't in this episode either. This is one of the early installments. He'll get a lady assistant later who's kind of like his Harley and his Mercy Graves.
Yeah.
So Batman saves Stromwell, and he takes him across the city there, and he starts reading him the riot act because he takes him back to apparently the place this, aging gangster got his start, the street corner where he was first slinging rocks, or I guess whatever you were slinging in the 1950s, probably not rocks.
Nitrous or something.
Or whatever they were doing,
Something exciting. Jet fuel from World War II or something.
Yeah, really. Dime bags of heroin. Because, heroin comes back and forth, It's big. Blue magic. He was selling the blue magic.
Yeah, and opium or something.
Yeah. And this is really, kind of the focal point of the episode. And also, I'm pretty sure the first time we ever actually hear Batman in Batman the Animated Series talk about, like, real life street drugs. Like, obviously we'll get like venom and fear toxin and fake stuff later on, but this is like Batman straight up saying to this guy, this is where you got your start selling drugs and now you manufacture them. And I know.
Yeah, well, what I also found strange about this is this episode's like this is like the crux of the episodes about like drugs and stuff and what this guy's doing, and it happens 9 minutes before the episode ends.
Yeah, I know, right? Till we get to like the real meat and potatoes of it all. Stromwell has a great dickhead line too, where it's like, "Hey man, I sell candy. I don't know what you're talking about." I sell candy, which is funny because he was stealing candy earlier on.
Yeah.
Which I think was that a joke, or does he like legitimately own Stromwell's old-timey candy company?
That's the thing. It's like Batman's been completely wrong about this, and he's a hard candy salesman. He deals in taffy and saltwater taffy and all that.
Really. Yes, I sell rock candies. I sell them by the bags for a dime.
Batman mistakes like the taffy pouring to be like the blue meth.
Yeah, really. But yeah, so apparently on this very same street we have the Sunrise Foundation, which is a drug rehabilitation center. And once Stromwell realizes that this is the case and that Batman's going to be doing some moralizing, he's like, "Ah, man, I don't want to see any of this shit. If they're weak enough to take my drugs, it's really their own fault." Which I'm like, man, that's probably some real world justification that I'm sure crime kingpins and drug dealers do all the time.
Absolutely, and of course Batman doesn't have any of that shit and like puts his fist through a wall.
Yeah, that I thought was great, where he wants to leave, but Batman's like, "Nope, I have taken you here, you're gonna see this." This is what I like to call the Ghost of Christmas Past session of the episode.
Yeah.
Because literally this episode is just kind of Batman taking this senior citizen on a walking tour of his own life.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. So what was so important about the Sunrise Foundation? Why is Batman, taking a hard stance on drugs, and this guy especially? Well, as we discover, Stromwell's ex-wife is here at the Sunrise Foundation because their son, Joey Jojo Shabadoo Jr., got hooked on the very same drugs that his father was selling and is now here in rehab. He wasn't kidnapped. His father just kind of fucked him up by extension.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, isn't it? And again, pretty heavy for Saturday morning, huh? Hey man, this is what you've done. And again, they don't say what drugs he's on. He's just on generic drugs.
Yeah.
They don't put a real name to it, but that's fine.
No, well, I guess they couldn't.
Yeah, they couldn't. And again, they never sold this as like a very special episode of Batman the Animated Series. No. Because they were all kind of special episodes, as we mentioned last week when we talked about the parental kidnapping. But I just thought that, this episode, I think, often gets forgotten and misconstrued, but always stuck out in my mind because of these reasons. Yeah, so Act 2, Batman has shown this guy the error of his ways, that, if he continues down this path of corruption and criminality, there's no telling what it could do to his son and his family, so he forces Stromwell to basically put an end to the gang war by surrendering and turning over all of his files and books to Batman so he can, take down all the syndicates.
Yeah, so then Batman can now take all his money.
Yeah, so Batman can take it. hey, Wayne Foundation gives a lot of money away. You gotta do something to keep buying fancy new belts and smoke bombs and everything else. I just thought this is so interesting because we rarely ever see Batman like this in the comics, where it's like, yeah, I could beat you up. I could take you all down by force, but I'm, superheroing smarter, not harder. I thought you could have a change of heart, and that's why I'm dedicating my whole night to try and make you see the error of your ways. And I think there's something really interesting about that, a Batman who wants to believe in the better angels of other people.
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace.
Very much so. I feel we don't get sympathetic Batman like this as much in the comics. I feel they leave that for Nightwing or Superman or other people.
They do, yeah.
Again, I think the closest we got to like sympathetic Batman like this is, believe it or not, I think 3 Jokers, where he lets everyone in the Bat family think he's a jerk because he's really just trying to protect, Joker's family, his secret family.
Yep.
Now, Stromwell gives him fake books, and Batman is so busy reading the fake books, he doesn't realize that he has a wall of guns.
a wall of giant, like,
hunting rifles.
Hunting guns.
World's greatest detective, everybody. This leads to actually a very cool and very artistic scene where Batman and Stromwell circle the same table like a Wild West friggin', high noon showdown, while there's only one lamp in the room casting the shadows. I thought that was a very nice touch.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense as well because like the guy's got a rifle and he's got to like bring that to bear. Then Batman could move.
Yeah.
So he's being very extra careful about it all.
Very tense. This is also still at the time in superhero cartoons where they were allowed to use realistic firearms.
Yeah, looks very realistic.
Very realistic. We'll see some Tommy guns later. Again, I think this was still at the era when this show was on Fox before it went to WB officially, but I think at the time, Fox was still okay with this. It was only later on where they mandated that all the guns had to be, like, lasers and shit.
Yeah.
And, yeah, Stromwell's reasoning is basically like, I can't go to jail right now. I've got too many people to shoot. Also, I think rehab is stupid. I'm gonna take my kid home where I can make sure he's not doing the drugs. I'm smart. That's me.
I'll get him off those drugs. I'll cold turkey him.
Yeah, basically is what he's gonna do. And Batman's like, that's a terrible idea. Don't do that. And Stromwell's like, but I got a gun though, so check and mate. Also, something that also is truly hilarious about this episode, Stromwell's office where he keeps his files is at the train yard.
Yeah.
Even though, as we have seen all throughout this episode, this guy has terrible PTSD all based around trains.
We see his desk doesn't like where his desk is. He can't see the trains.
Ah, there you go.
So he can see the tracks, but he can't see the trains.
Out of sight, out of mind. I was gonna say that would be like if Batman set up his Batcave at Crime Alley, which Batman Who Laughs actually did. The evil Batman.
Yeah.
So Rupert Thorne and his goon squad show up to try and finish things, and they throw a bunch of smoke bombs through the window. Luckily, Batman has a rebreather and saves this guy for the second time.
Yeah.
Despite him trying to shoot him, boy, ain't Batman a good dude. We get a very fun, very moody little scene where all the mafia thugs come on through with their Tommy guns, and Batman does a great trick with shadows where he gets behind a really big fat guy and makes it look like he's standing.
Yeah, he like uses the guy like Weekend at Bernie's and
Very.
like puppets him towards the guy and like throws him on them.
Hey, Stash, is that you, Stash? You sure seem to be standing at a very odd angle, but it is dark, so I don't know no better. Ah, dang it, it was the Batman. So Batman deals with the thugs. Stromwell starts running through the train yard. Batman defending him every step of the way. Man, Batman's really going above and beyond for this dude, isn't he?
Yeah, he's giving his life for this one piece of shit.
He believes in him, Batman. He believes in him so hard this episode. And he almost gets shot numerous times by these dudes. There's a great bit where they're ducking in and out of the train cars and everything, and Batman's jumping down on top of them, and he's jumping out of the shadows and everything.
Yeah, and they're fucking shooting their machine guns off everywhere. It's great.
It's nice to see the Gotham mobsters go to stormtrooper school when it comes to shooting. None of them can hit shit. And they expel like hundreds and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. Eventually it all comes to a major head when Stromwell actually comes face to face with Father Michael, the priest from before, who, like, just enough of the episode had gone by, we were like, hey, didn't Batman talk to a priest earlier? What the hell was that about?
I like to think it's not even connected, and the guy, he like the father just like wandered into the train yard just to like, he's like, I'm sick of like being scared of trains. I'm gonna go like beat up a train or something.
Face my fear. Suplex the fucking train. That'll learn me. So yeah, the father outreaches his hand to Arnold, and he starts having yet another PTSD flashback as yet another train is bearing down on him. And again, boy, credit where credit is due to the animation. They really do sell the feeling that this dude is having a goddamn breakdown over this train.
They really do, yeah.
That this is like the worst thing that's ever happened in his life. And we flash back again to the sepia tone years. You know, back in those days, things just looked sepia. And,
everything was old.
Yeah, everything was old. And we discover that this kid that young Arnold was with, Michael, wasn't just his friend, it was actually his brother, Michael.
Yeah.
It was his brother, and that day he got his leg stuck in the train. The only reason he wasn't killed was because Michael jumped to get him out of the way, in doing so costing him the use of his leg. And Michael grew up to be Father Michael, the priest we've been dealing with all episode.
Yeah, and he's got a wooden leg.
He's got a wooden leg. He's got a wooden leg, and he's got some great jokes too, where it's like, what? Why did you save me, Michael? You know I'm no good. And he's like, well, because your marriage is falling apart, and your empire is crumbling, and your son is in rehab. I get around just fine. Knock, knock on wood. Which, wow, talk about some like Catholic forgiveness on that one. I forgive you for losing my leg. I forgive you for treating me like shit and for being a gangster. I know you can still help me, and it's great too because they're having this like great brotherly moment of coming together, and two gangsters are about to shoot him, but Batman grabs them and jams their heads together.
Yeah, the old smash their heads together, and it immediately knocks everyone out.
Yeah, I love Batman being like, no, you can't do this, they're having a moment. I built up to this all night. I built this elaborate thing for this guy to see the error of his ways.
Great lengths to ensure this happens.
He really did. So yeah, Michael actually convinces Stromwell to turn himself in to the police to end the gang war and to give Batman the information he wanted. And yeah, that's basically what it is. Batman takes down Thorn, though he doesn't stay in jail forever, obviously. Mm-hmm. And as the big final moment there, they all kind of walk off into the sunset. Batman looks off into the distance, and we see the church again. I thought that's very interesting that the church is the last thing we see.
Yeah, the place of forgiveness.
Yeah, because this is a whole episode about forgiveness and how it's never too late. It's almost kind of like a fable in a way, it's almost like a psalm, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Which, like Batman and religion never seem to go that much together, but surprisingly, this episode, if I'm unmistaken, was directed by Boyd Kirkland, a very famous animation director. He's done Marvel stuff, DC stuff, other cartoons. I think he was actually a pretty prominent member of the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saint, actually.
Okay.
But, you're probably thinking like, geez, was he a religious nut? No, actually. Apparently, he spent many years fighting with his church, actually, because he believed in more humanist ideas. You see it here, and you see it in that X-Men Evolution episode on Angel's Wings. So I thought it was kind of interesting that 2 episodes of shows I really liked, directed by this same dude, had religious-y themes in it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Now, Stromwell we would never actually see again in the show. He wouldn't come back except for in the Robin's Reckoning 2-parter, which of course is many years in the past because we see young Dick Grayson. I think it's cool that they bring him back to showcase, this is earlier in the Gotham timeline.
Yeah, and I guess they kind of had to not bring him back because then they'd be like, oh, well, he just went back to crime and Batman
had to beat him up
nothing.
Again. Yeah, I think there's something very nice about how he's only in a couple episodes and that Batman actually worked in redeeming this guy and essentially saving his soul.
Yeah, he actually just went over to, like, Central City to deal with drugs over there.
I do kind of like the idea, though, of Batman having, like, a friend and ally who's, like, a former gangster that he, like, goes to for help sometimes.
That would be very interesting.
Because I feel that's a side of Batman we don't see very often, but we see very well in this episode, and that is that even if you just start off as a criminal, it doesn't mean that defines you forever. You can actually redeem yourself and do better.
Yeah.
And that's what this episode was. So that's It's Never Too Late, an episode that is very frequently on top 10 lists of worst episodes, and I don't think it deserves it.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I mean, I get it. Like, as a kid, I didn't get it at all. Like, I thought, like, oh, it doesn't have a super villain in it. This is boring. This is bullshit. But now that I'm actually an adult and see the things that it references, I'm like, oh, this actually had a lot going on for it. How did they get this on TV Saturday morning?
Yeah, I could see how a kid would be bored with this. But yeah, as you said, someone with a bit more, like, pop culture knowledge and knowledge of, like, film and, like, stuff that it's referencing, you can appreciate it a lot more.
And I think it's an episode they could really only have done in season 1 when they were still trying to figure out what the show was and what it was going to be.
Yeah, you couldn't have done this in New Adventures of Batman because it'd be completely changed. There'd be all sorts of shit in it. Like there would be a supervillain in it, a heavy for Batman to fight and stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like in season 1 they took more chances because they just didn't know what the show was going to be, and you could have weird outside the box ones like this. So yeah, everyone, I guess that'll just about do it for Retro Hero Video for another month. Thank you so much for allowing me and Matt to experiment and do fun stuff like this. I love talking about superhero animation. I could talk about it forever. I got 2 more episodes in mind as we close out our very special episode series on this show. One is a Teen Titans episode, and one is a very much demanded Static Shock episode.
Ooh, I think I know what the Static Shock episode is.
There's a couple we could have picked, but it's the one you think it is. So with that, everyone, we'll bring this one to a close. Again, be sure to follow Matt and myself on Twitter and social media so you always know what we got coming. And if you have an idea for an arc you would like to see us cover in future Retro Hero video podcasts, please let us know because we'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right then, everyone. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye.